Harry and Meghan's recent shenanigans have drawn criticism in the press, but also from the general public. It's clear that they seem to favor satisfying their urges to correct a narrative or try to get back at whatever headlines or criticisms have been leveled at them, rather than take the smart and strategic approach to try to repair their image. Harry and Meghan notoriously want to skip that step of fixing what they broke, of apologizing or taking accountability, or even just pumping the brakes and giving it a rest long enough for the air to clear, so to speak, because they just are juggernauts of mistakes, it would seem. One such moment that has sparked tons of conversation was on the Jamie Kern-Lima's podcast or show that Meghan went on a while back. I'll link the videos for you up here where we covered sort of bit by bit the interview itself and some of the contradictions and things like that, and that Meghan had said. But there were a couple of moments that were rather enlightening about Meghan as a human, like in her personal life, when she spoke about Harry and also her kids. It was peculiar and sounded strange when she said about Harry, "That man loves me so much," as well as with her kids, saying that it was sort of important to her that they know that she loved them the most. These statements, I think, for a lot of people sound too familiar to that which toxic people have said, that we have heard people who are rather high in narcissism in our lives speak that way. And so it's sparked a really interesting conversation. And Meghan similarly made a comment at the Time 100 summit that her work and her business is just as important as being a mom, that those two things are just as important to each other. And we had spoken about, I had said that really was a mistake from a PR perspective, but also just makes no sense to me as a mom, because obviously your kids are way more important, which a lot of you agreed with. Janet Bernard says, "No job is more important than your children." I'm sorry, that's how she feels. I feel for her children. And that's the sentiment that's really been going around. People are sad for the kids because of how Meghan has been speaking about them. And that might have been part of why for so long she and Harry just didn't talk about parenting at all, is because maybe some part of them knows that, you know, their approach to it is going to be criticized. As Jasmine said here, Meghan is a narcissist. Her actions and responses once again just further prove this. As the experts tell us, narcissistic parents expect children to be present when needed, but will not provide support to children in return. They can be so self-absorbed that their sole focus lies in their own hobbies or careers. The needs of their children will never outmatch those of the narcissistic parent. And this user says, "I think Meghan was inadvertently honest when she compared her work to her children. Given her apparently haphazard and slapdash approach to her business, we can only assume the kids are emotionally neglected afterthoughts." Ouch. Good point. And as we recently talked about, having all three projects launch at once, each one of these projects takes a lot of time and dedication. And her kids are under age 10, take a lot of time and attention to really parent them and develop quality relationships during this time. I mean, they aren't fully independent in really anything. Or at least not much of anything at that age. They're not even capable of doing a lot of stuff on their own. They should never be unsupervised. Meghan even said that Lily will toddle around the house and find her in her office unsupervised. They're so small, they can still just get hurt and fall down and things like that and get into mischief. So I found that a little hard to believe. But anyway, the point is, nobody can give all of these things this much attention. And if she had all three projects launch at once, and Meghan's bitten off all kinds of unnecessary projects, hobbies, trying to turn them into businesses, that there's no way she's able to spend that much time with the kids and doing parent stuff. Juggling these things is difficult. So why do so many projects at this particular time in your children's lives? I wonder. Penny Lando says, I find her general attitude towards her children troubling. It's as if she doesn't realize that they're separate from her and will have personalities that may not bend to what appears to be her plan for them. Here's one of her gems. We're creating multi-dimensional, interesting, kind, creative people. That's who our kids are, said no down-to-earth parent of a then 3-year-old and 1-year-old. True. We can't create our kids. They will develop in their own way. All we can do is teach them decent values and encourage the talents and interests that they have. We can't make them creative or interesting. And quite what she means by multidimensional is anyone's guess. That's a really good point. And that statement did seem odd at the time as well. And also leans into that, is Meghan a narcissistic mom? Saying that we're creating this and we're making them is so different. Another comment that was a bit odd, I can't remember if it was at I think it was the Time 100 summit. Meghan had said that she was teaching Lily to become strong and independent and confident or something like that, and raising Archie to be confident in supporting and uplifting women. And we talked about how that was a bit of a problem. Muna says, so Meghan is teaching her son to be a beta like Harry instead of Harry teaching his son to be a man. Gotcha. Ultimately, Sabrina says, to have such young children and just up and go across the country for a Broadway play, even if that was an option for me when mine were small, I can't imagine doing it. Most parents with kids those ages struggle with having a night out. I know I did, and it's genuine to want to choose to be with them, something that someone like her can't fathom. So incredibly self-absorbed. Well said. I do think it's a bit strange, and I think that that's part of what fueled so many of the conspiracy theories early on, that Harry and Meghan leave on trips, whether they be work related or for pleasure, just personal trips, so often without the kids. It just doesn't make much sense when they're still so young, being under age 6 still, both of them. I'm pretty sure both of them are under age 6 now. To be gone so much during those early years is surprising for a lot of people, because they have spent a lot of time away. And then for Meghan to spend so much time almost exclusively talking about things from this very glossy, oh, it's all perfect sort of point of view, just doesn't add up to reality. Another phrase that she said regarding the kids was how she shows up for them. She uses this a lot, but she's lately been using it a lot more often, saying that's how I show up for them. And it's about how you show up for people, how I show up for people. And she used it in reference to her kids. And a lot of you caught on to how strange that is, because it's a given when you're raising kids. You are there. You're the one who isn't showing up. You're just there. That's the whole point. You're supposed to be the rock for them. You're supposed to just always be there, not needing to show up any sort of way, just there, steady and constant and stable. Jackie Gold says, if she has to show up for her kids, then she isn't with them. I never had to show up. I was just there. At that age, the only time I wasn't with them was when they were at school or playgroup, and even at playgroup, you helped with a session at least once a term. Peace says, I stayed at home with my children till they were around 10, even though financially it was a bit of a struggle. Those years go by so fast, and they're the foundation of your child's life. I never went on holiday without them either. I wouldn't have enjoyed it. Same. Being away from them or trying to go on out of state or something without your kids, especially when they're that little, would be full of worry for most parents, especially in previous years. You're talking about like a 5 or a 4-year-old and a 2 or a 3-year-old. You know, when we saw Meghan and Harry going to Nigeria and Colombia last year, they were a whole year younger than they are now. So Lily was like 2. That's kind of crazy. It really is. I mean, I'm not saying that like people shouldn't take vacations if that's what they really need or really want, but to see Meghan and Harry do it, and then Meghan talk the way she has about parenthood lately, it feels a little strange, and it really has validated a lot of people's assumptions that she is a narcissistic mom. Soyo says, Meghan Markle said of her children, I show up for them. What in the world? You should be almost their entire world when they are very small. That's what being a real mother means. It's not a game. You put in the work while they're young, and they will honor and love you forever. Deco Dolly says, I can't even begin with Meghan's comments about how her children are going to be so sure how much she loves them. I don't have any children, but my assumption is that if a woman's children are not fully aware that she loves them, she has utterly, utterly failed in the basics of mom. That statement is right alongside all her "I'm such a good person" remarks. If you have to keep telling people, it's because there is absolutely zero evidence of it being true. And a lot of people brought that same energy to the, "Oh, I email them every night something so that they will always be able to look back on how much Meghan loved them." A lot of people had that same sort of vibe towards that comment, that, well, if you think an email is what's going to prove your love to them, then there's a little bit something weird happening here in this dynamic. YYC Duchess says, "When I speak of love for my husband and son, I have never said that they love me so much. I always say how much I love them. It's up to my husband and son to say how much they love me." Very good point. I did think that sounded quite strange as well. And in a previous video, I talked about how I don't think I've ever said something like that. Like, "Oh, I've never said that. They love me." No, I've never said that. But what about you guys? Happiness and Health says she shows up for them. No real mother talks like that. I have never heard anybody else say that. Although I have heard it's about how you show up. And the idea behind it is kind of normal in that you do want to show up and be present and be focused on them when you're there. You want to be sure that you're providing your kids the best sort of focus and attention that you can, that you're not distracted by your phone, for example, or, if you're a little tense, that you're not short-tempered for them. But I don't think most people talk about it that way, because part of being in a family dynamic is them being able to see you in those less than perfect moments, handling it in a healthy way. Like, you are going to be tired sometimes. You are going to be spent or frustrated sometimes. There is going to be bumps in the road, and handling it healthily is what's more valuable for your kids to demonstrate. Even though I feel frustrated right now, I'm going to handle it in a healthy way, that sort of a thing. So trying to show up in a perfect way all the time isn't going to build that connection, but it's also going to rob them of the valuable experience of seeing people manage their emotions in a healthy manner. Just another angle to it. Another comment that I thought was really keen was from H. Ray that said, "I can't think of anyone who has told us more that they have no idea what's written about them, while at the same time proving she knows everything that's written about her. But if she was really that oblivious, she wouldn't feel the need to keep saying it, because she wouldn't even know." Exactly. How do you know it's 1% if you only see 1%? How do you know what's being said about you? Why do you feel the need to tell us that you don't see it? Why do you feel the need to tell us about these things? If you really aren't looking at it, then it wouldn't be entering your mind. So she tells on herself all the time, like most narcissists tend to do. And Sharon Levy caught on to Meghan's first question on the Jamie Kern-Lima podcast. "Are you okay, Meghan?" How often, if ever, does the Meg ask others if they are okay? Very good point. And Nice Material also caught on, "You didn't mention it, so I'm not sure you're aware. Nobody has asked me okay," is a Diana quote. I didn't know that. Really, she, of course, said it at a far more appropriate time in an interview. But yeah, the line is stolen from Diana. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing. And Fact Check says, "If Meghan really cares about her fans and being an inspiration and interacting, she needs to turn on the comment section." Yes. Actually listen to some of the feedback. Respond to some of it, if she dares. Christopher Watts said that she's not meant to use HRH for commercial gain, and that basket is for commercial gain. A lot of people said that Meghan's loophole for using the HRH on that card that she sent Jamie Kern-Lima was that it was in a personal capacity, and that she's been using HRH in a personal capacity all this time because she's allowed in a personal capacity. But having her jam in there and the picture and then bringing it onto this podcast is technically in a gray area of, is that personal gain? Is that a commercial enterprise? Or is this really a private thing? Because if it's really private, then we shouldn't be seeing it on a for-profit podcast. I'm sorry about the noise. There's a lot of construction going on outside right now. I really can't do anything about it. And I've been waiting to film for like a week. So I'm sorry for the noise, you guys. Anna's response to Meghan's, I work so hard moments that she's been marinating in lately on the Time 100 and the podcast interview with Jamie. She said, narcissists. I work so hard. People have no idea. Normal person. There's so much work behind it. So many people involved and truly dedicated to the project. People have no idea. Excellent. I couldn't have said it better. It's that way that Meghan has been saying these things with the parenting, with the working hard, with the relationship with Harry. That's just, it doesn't add up to us. Just like how we'll catch micro expressions in body language from people in real life and we can't really quite put our finger on it, but we're like, I feel like I can't really believe what they're saying, or I feel like this person I can trust, or something about this feels a little off. Sometimes it's something we don't even fully realize. It's a micro expression that we catch on to. And I feel like a lot of times the way Meghan says these things, it's like a verbal micro expression of like, wait, why did she say it like that? It's so weird. And so not a normal way of looking at the situation or thinking about the situation. Bobs the cat says, if you go back to the engagement interview, Harry looked at her in a way that you never see now. He was in love before the wedding, and I think it is pride that holds him there, plus the kids, because William may say, told you so, and Harry doesn't want to hear that, and he doesn't want all the haters to celebrate and say how right they were. I think that's true. That's why I think Meghan and Harry will not get divorced anytime soon, because neither of them want to be proven wrong. Neither of them want to prove the public or the royal family right, and they have the kids. A lot of people, will try to sort things out that way, but also we know Harry is a malcontent and kind of mean, and Meghan is kind of mean and complaining and narcissistic, and so together they might actually find less fault in each other than somebody more normal with either of them would, if that makes sense. So maybe they, should just, maybe it'll work out for them in terms of them together, not for the rest of us. We shouldn't have to be subjected to all of this nonsense. Westy says, Virgos unite. The card with HRH is not only pretentious, but anyone who does calligraphy knows that you never use fancy initials next to each other. It's not as readable and therefore misses the point. I agree. And also aesthetically, it just looks kind of chunky and weird. And number 2, no one has yet said that Meghan needs a specific kitchen to do commercial cooking. My friends here in Australia had to face these issues with the health department, even remodeling to comply. Is it not the same in the USA? It is, but she is having it produced somewhere else. She has outsourced the production of As Ever Goods. You guys have the best comments. Joyce Sinclair says, Meghan doesn't have friends. She has sounding boards. Exactly. That Jamie Kern Lima podcast was just, yes, constantly. Soar says, it just dawned on me, we see publicity by the royal family and official appearances, and they're with officials, VIPs, and people as part of the function they're at. They don't claim they're close friends with so-and-so or long-standing friends. They are friendly. The one time they attended a concert for their individual enjoyment, they weren't claiming to be friends with Taylor Swift. I'm sure they have friends, but they don't use their friends for publicity or to claim status. Meghan, on the other hand, having no official role, now uses her friends as her publicity, using the association to promote herself. She gave up being the elite to celebrity chasing. Very astute observation, and I would agree. That's part of what feels so strange about it all, of Meghan and Harry saying that they wanted to continue the work and trying to do these faux philanthropic things, faux royal publicized vacations and whatnot, while at the same time kind of trying to operate in this celebrity sphere. It just doesn't work. It feels weird and it looks weird. And since we know Meghan doesn't have super close, long-standing relationships with a lot of these mega A-listers or mega wealthy people in California out there, then it does feel like she's kind of still climbing her way up a little further. Like, she got the prince, but it didn't really work out quite as glamorous as she thought it would. So she's got to keep climbing a little bit further to get a little bit more elevated amongst the Montecetans. Because as some people reported a while back, Meghan and Harry actually, compared to a lot of the people who live in the Monteceto area, are not as famous and not as wealthy, like by quite a bit, because that's where a lot of the billionaires bought homes, Oprah and them. And that's where a lot of the real sort of celebrity, Hollywood royalty went to live in Monteceto and that area there. So Meghan and Harry are even a little bit out of their league there. Back to the gift basket. Cards by Mike says, or make. I'm so sorry. I'm really bad at pronouncing or figuring out usernames, so I just kind of try to figure out the first word and leave it at that. So I hope it doesn't offend anybody. Meghan, I think, just wanted to fly her title in front of Jamie's friends in case she got to see it. When I had my vegetable patch allotment, I made sure to only give out the best produce to others. If you give out runny jam, you taint your reputation, in my opinion. Yes, you do. This feels she heard last minute about this party or the guests and slapped something together so she could put all that important note on top, hoping reactions like, you know a princess. I think that was part of the motivation. I think Meghan and other people who are, a little bit more egotistical and a little bit more, who care more about appearances and keeping up appearances, do these sorts of things. If somebody is having an event or a gathering, or they have some extra family in the house or something, they might do something like that, like bring by a gift basket, or, even if it's somebody like at work on a day where they know the boss is going to be there or something, they might bring bagels that day, or they might put HRH on the gift basket with, just as I said, 2 pints of ice cream for a house full of people. That's not enough ice cream. What are you doing? People are going to be fighting over the ice cream. What that tells us is that it's actually about the HRH card. It's actually about trying to, feel elevated somehow. Kangalittle says, as Rachel Meghan's popularity plummets, she is angling to attract the youngest group, especially young girls. I think that might be true, but at the same time, I think they don't have any spending power yet. And so it wouldn't really make sense. Meghan is not very good at thinking about the long game. She's a very short-sighted person, and so she rarely plans ahead far enough for things like that, but maybe. Agnes says, she's so competitive with the Princess of Wales, but can you even imagine that Catherine would ever say things in a whiny voice like, I work so hard, or that man loves me so much, or any of the other inane Meghan statements? Exactly, because it's weird. It's really weird to talk that way. And also, like we've said before, when you're in a place of privilege and you have all this extra help, you can't really come out there complaining, just like Harry and Meghan's first mistake after they left the royal family in Megxit. Well, even before that, Meghan in South Africa, coming out and complaining when you're coming from a place of privilege is never gonna look good. It's never gonna work when you're a public-facing person. That's why the Queen's policy was so ingenious. And in one of the most bizarre things Meghan said of Prince Harry and her is just like Mario and Princess Peach. Sarah Demore says, the analogy maketh no sense indeed. As far as I recall, there's no dragons in Super Mario either. Exactly, there's not. Stephanie Johansson points out, Markle saying she could handle it as why she was divinely chosen to marry Harry. Yet she once said, don't give it 5 minutes if you can't give it 5 years. And of course she said it before the royal family, and she never gave even being a royal 5 years. And this is something that I think a lot of people do. It's kind of a common mistake. When you have a baby, people really underestimate the shift in dynamic within your relationship and just in your life, and how, it takes a long time to get back to feeling more normal, but also to find your new normal within your family unit. When you have a new human come in and they're completely dependent on you and you can't reason with them either, then you really need to give yourself at least a few years. A lot of people call it quits after having a baby, whether it be like Meghan and Harry did, they quit their jobs and their family and left to go live somewhere else, or on a smaller scale, people get divorced when their babies are less than 3 years old. They've not had time to finish adjusting to having a new baby. And I think sometimes, not always, but I think sometimes that's a little bit of a mistake of not giving yourselves enough of a chance to finish adjusting to parenthood and motherhood and the new dynamic within the relationship in the household, and creating a new dynamic for all 3 or 4, or however many of you there are now, rather than sticking with the, old dynamic and trying to force that to work in a new situation. And Metza Muddle says, you never hear Meghan talk about how much she loves H. It's always that man loves me so much. I don't believe for 1 minute Meghan loves Harry. She managed to stalk and snag the dumb prince with some help from her Soho House crowd, Marcus Anderson, as soon as she realized Harry wasn't as rich as she thought, and that there is a hierarchy within the monarchy. It's not a popularity contest. She started planning the move back to America with that title. Meghan thought she'd finally be an A-list star and become Queen of America. That's why she met up with Oprah before the wedding. That wedding was the biggest networking opportunity she was ever going to get. I think that's very true. I think that's quite accurate assessment of the situation. And Jen says, let's be honest, HRH is pretty cool, and if we had a friend who was an HRH, we'd all like to have something from her with that in the label. It would be kind of fun to have. I don't argue that at all. But the problem is that Meghan and Harry basically had their HRH taken away in the most polite manner possible. They were asked not to use it at all. They were asked not to use it. It wasn't you can use it in these scenarios, but not in those scenarios. No, it was, we ask you not to use your HRH, but we're not going to strip you from it. Just don't use it. You're not allowed to use it anymore. And so it's actually kind of embarrassing that Meghan was still trying to use it. Circling back to the kids and those emails, BRC Rosa says, the Meg is going to use these emails if she actually sends them as a way of gaslighting the kids. She's going to write down events as she wants them to be seen. If she makes them read these later in life, it may make them question their own memories, almost like a big gaslighting operation. I also agree on your reasoning for why she is doing this. It's probably a combination. The Meg is never simple when it comes to her manipulations. And Jonah says, most moms love their children unconditionally and their kids feel 100% loved throughout the years while being brought up. Why email them to state your love? Can't you just show it authentically in the everyday environment without any effort but only love? Do parents who email their kids every day in their early childhood become better parents, and do the children as a receiver of these emails feel more loved? Sorry, but this is so pretentious, shallow, and out of touch. And people commented on this that, well, my parents never had these sorts of emails or keepsakes or letters that they gave me, but I still felt loved. And I think that's really a good point, especially in these babyhood years and the like toddler and really little preschool aged years where they can't even really read anyway, that the feelings is what's more important. And if you're on a computer emailing something, then you're not having that feeling, and it would be better spending that time face to face with them while they're little. Maybe as they get older, you know, in the preteen and teenage years, I could see emailing back and forth, having that open line of communication being really valuable, and even like thinking back and sending your kid, you know, retrospective emails, maybe like, oh, remember this memory, and I was thinking of this memory, to, you know, be able to talk about or, you know, demonstrate good memories with each other and remind them of your love or happy times when they were little, because they might forget or not remember everything from when they were toddlers and preschool aged or little kid years. And that could be really fun. But I think in the under age 10 range, it's much more bang for your buck, so to speak, to just spend the FaceTime with your kids. Just be there, face to face. Watch what they're doing, sit with them while they play, talk to them, be there, and make sure they feel that love. And then do the email thing later, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I get digital journals too, but yeah, I'm with you on that. Misha Nunn says, oh yes, this thing. The first little snippet I heard from it was, we're not wearing any makeup. Yes, you do. Both of you. Only Meghan has, as ever, such a bad idea of what looks good. If they didn't say anything about it, I would not have thought about it at all. But no, it's always over the top. Yes, exactly. They, at the very least, both had lash extensions on, which essentially is like wearing false lashes and even a little mascara, because those are black, right? And our natural lashes are more like regular hair. You know, even if you have black hair, your lashes are not black the way false lashes and lash extensions are black. Those look like they have mascara on them. And so at the very least, those ladies were wearing false lashes and lash extensions, and probably some degree of a tinted moisturizer at minimum. But that's all the comments we have time for to review today. I hope you enjoyed this style of video. I will try to keep up on these because you guys really do provide such wonderful, valuable comments. I still, to this day, am reading every single comment that comes through the channel that YouTube doesn't flag and take away, because they do erase comments on their own if there's something that's, maybe got something that breaks the rules or whatever. So I guess I don't see those, but I read every other comment and I appreciate them so much. So I love getting the chance to feature your comments and discuss a little further some of the videos that you guys reacted to the most. Thank you so much again. I hope you have a happy day ahead, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Basic B says, as a fellow pageant participant, I would love you to do a video on your experiences, good or bad, within the industry. I think there's a lot of stigma behind pageants, and it would be cool to break some of that down. I know for myself I had both good and bad experiences. While I don't regret them, it's not something I would necessarily want my child participating in. I had rather limited experience with them in terms of participating in them because we were in a small town growing up, but I had a lot of fun doing it. There were some downsides, like, for example, one year I clearly had outperformed the other kind of main contender. There was, I think, only 3 or 4 of us competing that year for one title, and it went to her because she was a year older, and it was kind of her last year to participate in that competition. And I had overheard them saying, the judges and the organizers saying that, well, I can come back the next year and win that year, and she couldn't. So they gave it to her, and that was a little crushing and difficult for me to accept. I felt like that was really not cool, and I didn't want to participate the next year, but I ended up participating the next year and winning, but it just didn't feel the same because it didn't feel earned, because it felt robbed the year before. And that was the last time I participated in a competition, was that next year, when it felt like more of a given, and it just kind of soured me on it a little bit. But I love the upsides to it of valuing etiquette and presentation, and the things I found most valuable were things that I draw on now, of like being able to know the right etiquette in a situation and have the confidence to, introduce myself or things like that, or have an interview if there's a job interview or things. I was able to put myself in that mind state from pageant interviews. That was just very helpful to me confidence-wise. Whereas without it, I think I would be a little bit more timid and speak less confidently. So I really valued those things that I was able to take with me from those experiences, more so than the pageants themselves. So they were fun. My, I guess, sort of father-in-law, I'm not married, but, he had always said, when we had our first, he was a surprise. I was really young, and he said, it really stuck with me, he's his own little dude. When he looked at him the first time he saw him, he's his own little dude. Look at him there. And it's such an important perspective to keep in mind when you have kids, because they're just doing their own things all the time, thinking their own thoughts, feeling their own feels, completely majestically. I mean, it's magical, it's crazy, it's incredible. But never are you making and molding them into anything, especially not if they don't want it.